I'm here with the lovely, incredibly talented Stormy Daniels. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. You are extremely accomplished in this whole industry. I see, I was looking up before this, all the movies you did, but more importantly, all the directing that you've done and all the stuff that you've done from the business standpoint of this. And you seem to be just uniquely accomplished in this. It's like fantastic. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. That was a very, very polite way of saying control freak. Because that's pretty much what it comes down to. I started in the business and I love to write. And someone was having trouble writing a script. And I was like, oh, I can write. And they laughed at me. And you never laugh at me. So I started writing and I realized how much I loved writing. And then there came the script is your baby and you have to turn it over to someone, and that's never a good feeling. So then I started directing. And then I was like, well, I like this part so much, I don't want to give it to somebody else. So I started directing my own movies, and it just sort of all came from there. And then we started the Passions line, and I had that up for Wicked as well. And it's all just, I've worked very hard over the last, I've been with Wicked, this is my 13th year, and my 11th as a director, to sort of brand myself as a writer, director, and a performer.
Do you find the writing to be cathartic? Like, do you feel just get stuff off your chest?
Very much so, in all these little weird ways. When I first started writing, the first few darker movies I did, anyone who was a villain or that got killed off, I named after girls who were mean to me in high school. So that's cathartic.
Extremely Freudian. That's amazing.
I do little awful things like that all the
Yes.
time. And I won't tell the name of the movie because he'll kill me. But a movie I shot very recently, I wrote and I'm not in it, but I wrote it and directed it. And I went so far as the movie's about a particular guy, and I had him play himself, and he didn't even know it.
You heard it here first, and I bet it's not that difficult to figure out if you go and do some research. All right, so let's go back through where you made the transition. Is there anything you could go back 10 years, you have a conversation with yourself and say, do this different, do more of this, do less of this?
You know what? I think I would have learned to delegate a little bit sooner, maybe. And I think that I would have had a tough, started off with a tougher skin. I used to get my feelings hurt a little too easily. But as far as everything else, I'm really happy. Every mistake I've made, I've learned from, so I wouldn't really take any of them back.
Recently, in the last 7-8 years, social media has become so incredibly pervasive. That, on top of the fact that so much pornography is being shared for free on the internet, it's made it difficult for some people to be able to make money with sites because everything being for free. Can you talk about the double-edged sword where you have exactly, you have a magnificent amount, and we're going to talk about Game of Thrones later, so the double-edged sword, but the magnificent way where you can get tremendous amount of exposure. The barrier to entry is very little, but it's also very difficult to get enough traction to make money.
Right. It's and I live with a musician too, so there's a whole lot of bitter in our house. It's really good because you're exposed to so many more people. I have way more fans than I would have before social media, and the public can interact easier with not just adult stars, but with anybody that they, and they feel like they have a connection and they're going to be more loyal and more dedicated. And when you make a personal appearance, it's going to be much bigger. And that's where you have to like really figure out how to make your money and how to make the most out of those situations. Because you say sharing, I say stealing. I'll give you the perfect example. 10 years ago, I could pay for a photo shoot, produce it, whatever, put it on my website and make not just the money I spent on the shoot back, but live very well. Now, within 3 hours of me putting up something, I can find it on 20 sites for free. And my website is losing money now. But because all those people are sharing, when I do an appearance, the place is packed.
They can't steal you.
Right. It's the only thing that can't be pirated is me in person. So that means that I have to travel a lot more. But you have to stay ahead of the game, I guess.
What have you found to be the most pervasive? Facebook, Instagram, Twitter? What type of social media are you using?
And that's the problem, is that everyone's fickle. They want it was MySpace. Everybody had MySpace, and I was so excited when I hit like 1 million on MySpace. And then it was not cool anymore. What do you mean you have a MySpace? What's your Twitter? And I was like, what's a Twitter? My what? What did you say? My what? and then it went, to Facebook, and then it was Instagram, and now it's Snapchat, or just like I said, you just have to stay ahead. Like every time I hear of something, I immediately try to get my name, because I thought Vine was going to take off, and it didn't do as great. And then
Instagram undercut them, yeah.
Yeah, and then there was another one. I forgot what the other one was.
Pinterest is also something that's been really big.
Another one that didn't actually take off, and I went and jumped on that and try to, because you also have people pretending to be you, which opens a whole nother problem of, these other people scamming fans. I had some guy on, or I don't know, someone on Facebook pretending to be me and telling fans that like I had a car issue with my car and sending money, and I had a guy show up at a club and he was pissed because he had sent a $600 deposit for like an escorting thing. I was like, I don't even escort, and if I did, it would be a lot more than $600, buddy. That's kind of your own fault for believing that one. But I mean, people do that all the time. So it's a lot of online cyber stalking yourself, basically, to make sure that everything is as controlled as you could make it.
Do you have a verified Twitter account, verified Facebook?
They don't like to give out those little check marks to us.
Really? That's crazy.
There's only like 2 adult stars that are verified.
That's correct. Well, that's doubly dangerous, actually, when you think about it, for you and for them, for the people getting scammed, and for you yourself, because your identity. I've suffered identity theft several times on Facebook. Yeah. Okay. So can you talk about who influenced you, like as far as the writing, and in and outside of adult films, and directing?
Well, for the writing, I'm not really sure, because all through school, I'm talking like way back to like middle school, I was the one that would write these little short stories starring all of my friends, and they'd come in every day. Because instead of doing my homework, that's what I was doing.
How foreshadowing is that? You're writing 4 short stories that have to do with all your friends, and now it's just...
So they were like, oh, what did you write? I would write these little stories or whatever. And then when I got into high school, I was like editor of the paper, so I was writing. So I really thought I was going to go into journalism. But then I realized that I hated it because there's no creativity, really. And then I found my way here into the adult business and started writing, and was like, this is amazing, because now I have this outlet, and I can do whatever I want. And then I became a director, which was like becoming the puppet master. And they all have to do what I say. And it's like the ultimate for a control freak to like yell at naked people all day. But when I got in the business, the first person I met was Brad Armstrong, who works for Wicked, and Wicked was my favorite company. And I watched him work, and he's phenomenal as a writer and a director. So there was that. And then I really liked Nick Andrews' work, because he was really willing to take these crazy, chances when he directed. And that was what kind of inspired me to do my 2 biggest movies, Operation Desert Stormy and Tropical Stormy. I'm like, let's blow some shit up. Can I say shit? I just did.
You did.
And it just, and then I think the other really cool thing is I hate porno dialogue.
Okay, so this is my next question. So I would imagine you have two separate issues here. You have people who are good adult performers, mm-hmm. and then you have a script. You have dialogue that you want them to read. I imagine some of them moved here to be actors originally and end up in doing adult films. So do you ever have an issue where like, I can't use him, even though I want to, because he just doesn't work with the dialogue at all, or her, or anything like that?
And I also have the opposite problem, where I have somebody who's a fantastic actor, but maybe they have problems downstairs. So I'm always walking that line, because Wicked, every movie I do is heavily scripted. That's part of my contract. Okay. I only do features. So being a great actor is really important, at least in the movies that I direct. So it seems really hard to find the guy and the girl who's excellent at both. And it can be a test of patience, for sure.
So you said before Brad Armstrong was an influence. Was there any books that influenced you? Any writers that you like? Were you a fan of Hemingway or anyone like that?
It's so cliche, but I love Stephen King.
Yes.
I read a lot of his work. I'm trying to think. We were talking about the Game of Thrones books.
So George R.R. Martin, who is the greatest fictional writer alive in the entire world.
He's
yes.
One of the most horrible people ever.
You wish he'd stop complaining about the Jets and just write a freaking book.
But his descriptions are amazing.
Aren't they?
Yeah, it's like you feel like you're there.
Okay, so for all the Game of Thrones nerds out there.
Very far, so
okay, so she's halfway through book 1. You've watched the television show, though, right? Okay, so what do you think about Game of Thrones so far?
I think it's incredible. It's the best, cinematically, the best show I've ever seen.
I agree. I completely agree. So who is Jon Snow's mother?
See, I don't know. And if you know, don't tell me.
Okay, I got another question for
But
you.
every time
Who
I watch it,
who is Jon Snow's father?
well, Ned Stark.
Are you sure? Okay,
Oh,
I don't want to give it away for you. Anyway, so the other shows you said you watch Breaking Bad.
I watched Breaking Bad.
You like that?
Also one of the best.
Have you ever used it for an influence for you doing an adult film?
No, not story wise, but they as the seasons progressed, I realized that they got way more creative and took a lot more risk with their angles, like their shots.
Yes.
I mean, even if it wasn't necessary, I'm like, wow, they took a lot of time just to grab that unique perspective, and I take more of that from that show than the storyline.
The final shot where he falls down, you see the blood trail, and then
You're
the police. No, if you haven't seen Breaking Bad, come on.
There was a shot in one episode when they were still in the like the dry cleaning factory, and they shoot through this fan. And as a director, I know how long it took to get that just right, to get this rack focus, and it is just so awesome. So that's what I take from that show. My other favorite show is Walking Dead.
Okay, so Walking Dead. What do you have you read any of the graphic novels?
No, I have not.
They're really good.
Are they?
Shh.
I got sucked into it from someone else, and then I'm that chick.
Who's your favorite character?
Who do you think? Come on, I'm that chick. Yeah, I love me some Daryl Dixon. I'm not gonna lie.
Is that it?
He follows me on Twitter.
Daryl? Yeah. Oh, okay.
Norman
You're from Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Norman Reedus is my favorite, and he follows me on Twitter.
That's awesome. Yes, this is a fantastic show. Who did you hate to see die on the show?
Beth.
Yeah. I kind of figured somebody had to go if they were bringing on some new characters, but yeah, Beth, that was pretty sad. All right.
And they got you because you didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
That
very
was
cool.
probably one of the only ones that I was like, oh my god. Yeah.
For me, it was T-Dog. I hated to see T-Dog die.
T-Dog. And I'm not gonna lie, I really got tired of Lori though.
Interesting.
I did not like her. And I know everybody wants Carl to die, but I can't do that.
Isn't it weird that these shows deal with so much just like strife and anguish, and like we are just so addicted to watching them?
We are horrible people, aren't we?
And then afterwards, we just watch porn, and it's like, oh, this is way more relaxing and fun.
And then we watch the porn parodies of these shows, and I don't even know what that says about how messed up we are.
Have you done any of the porn parodies?
No, I don't do parodies, but like I know Joanna Angel did a Walking Dead parody, and there's like 2 or 3 Game of Thrones, like Game of Bones, and there's or something like that. There's a whole bunch of them, and they're just so awfully good.
Some of the mainstream stuff you did, I looked it up before. 40-Year-Old Virgin, you were in that. You write for FHM?
I did. I had a column. It was like a year thing. I haven't in a long time, but I did. I wrote for IFC a couple times too.
Oh, very cool. There was another movie.
I started with 40-Year-Old Virgin. It was basically just an open casting, and I stood in line with like 400 chicks, and I got the part. But from there, I was in. So I didn't audition again, and I did Superbad, Knocked Up, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, I Love You Man, I'm Pineapple Express. I'm in all of those. And even if they cut my scenes out, I still get my royalty checks every month.